Okay, so I figure I can edit this too, but
Yep.
maybe like a follow-up from the video that we did the other day,
Yep.
unless you wanted to, there was some stuff on your mind that you think like, oh, this would be good to kind of talk about.
I'm trying to think of something I didn't really touch on that I wanted to touch on.
I'll tell you
Um,
what, you mentioned a minute ago
hmm,
when like techs are on calls, or if you have like a owner, if it's an owner solo company, like one man in a truck, he's the tech, right? But if
right.
you have a company where the owner's in the office and the techs are out, like if you're selling service plans or upgrades or upsells, a lot of times it is like you're just not, sometimes it's just, you just got to ask. I think it's a confidence thing.
It is because here's the thing, right, Mike, is that if we are able to get our techs in the mindset, and I'll just explain this on my last call, is that if a tech is just looking for a blue car, all they're going to see is a blue car. But if they're looking for a blue and red car, they're going to see both. It's almost like we train our techs as if we bring them on to, hey, just fix this and then come back. But if you're a business owner and you're the owner, you're running the show, you almost have to help shift your perspective, mind of perspective of your techs as, hey, not only do you fix things, but also you need to sell or even just have a conversation because so many times techs are going to these jobs, they get the job done and then they leave.
Hmm.
But if you're not, man, imagine how many more service plans could your company sell and all other home service businesses in the USA? How much more service plan could they sell if their text just asks a simple question
Yeah.
to the customer? Hey, would you want this service plan? Or how about this service plan to protect your investment or protect this investment? How many
Yeah.
more? If you think about it, let's just stay on the real low end of this. If a tech has, let's just say in 3 months, let's say they have 50 calls in
Hmm.
those 3 months, right? And if they ask every single time, numbers are numbers and numbers are going to play out. I guarantee at least out of those 50, just by asking and not any type of training, just asking the
Hmm.
question, at
Hmm.
least 5 to 10, at least
Yeah.
5 to 10, just from asking. But the thing
Yeah.
is, when text, we need to work with them and help them expand their mindset of I'm just not a guy that fixes things, but I'm a tech that serves the customer best. Because again, that's all selling is just serving the customer. And how can I serve them best? By asking if they would like this maintenance plan.
Yeah. I like it too. And I noticed a couple things like when you say, first of all, if you just ask for it, right? Right. Because it doesn't hurt to, if you don't ask or mention it, you didn't sell anything. And
Right.
then I would say my next biggest things is informing the customer using layman's terms
Yep.
and showing pictures, which is to me also a level of informing,
Right.
right? Because if I say,
Right.
hey, Ariel, don't you want a maintenance plan? No. Okay, that's different than if I say, hey, you can take care of this HVAC. It's a machine. It's expensive when it breaks and all. It's just like your car. You probably wouldn't drive your car for 10 years and never maintenance. It's probably going to last 1 year. So this isn't much different.
Right.
Like explaining it to people helps that sale. And it's not hard to find something that you understand. So I like to use cars. Someone else might want to use something else. So
Yeah, so that's the power of analogy, right? What is the best way to explain a difficult concept to somebody or a specific concept that you're a professional at that someone's not?
mhm.
Analogies. How can you explain it through an analogy that someone is able to understand it, right? Something and preferably an analogy that is common knowledge. And like you said, for example, a car. Everyone pretty much has a car, know it needs maintenance. And
Mhm.
and when you said that, I'm like, oh wow, like that is true, mate. Like I need to make sure I do that with my own HVAC system because because I do the same thing with my vehicle. I just got an oil change last week.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to keep running. It's winter right now. My HVAC system cuts out. Then what? So if
Yeah.
I'm the customer and you just left my house, let's say, matter of fact, now you just left my house, but if you serviced my house 4 months ago and something happens to my HVAC unit and a maintenance plan could have took care of it, but you never mentioned it, how is that serving the customer?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if we change our perspective of, oh, I don't want to sell, I don't like selling, I'm just a tech. No, it's serving. How can I serve that customer? Because if something goes wrong, they're going to want to know there's a solution to fix it. And matter of fact, they want to know, like, hey, if you would have told me that when you were here before, that's something I would have wanted.
Yeah.
And if you would have explained it a certain way as a tech in layman terms, using analogies, that
Yeah.
customer would understand it and would even want it the more so. So that's, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
great point.
Yeah. And I think explaining it in a way where you don't compete with the customer or insult the customer. Like,
That's good.
I think,
That's
I
good.
think the more human you are, the less you're going to insult the customer. But I'll give you an example. If I say, oh, Mr. Robinson, it looks like this thing hadn't been serviced in forever. You can kind of be borderline there
Right,
because now the
right.
person is feeling defensive,
Of
right? So
course.
that's not the right way, but to educate them in a way without telling them they haven't done what they're supposed to do. So you can, like, I've done it before and said, like, well, oh, when was the last time you had the AC serviced? Which is borderline because they can feel defensive. But usually I'll get an answer like, well, sometimes they'll say, what is that? Which is a great response that I want, right? And sometimes they'll say, man, I know I should have done it, but I haven't been on it. Then I'll say, hey, I'm an AC person and I can forget to do mine. But the good thing about our maintenance plans is we actually call you. So every 6 months we have it on a thing to call you. You don't even have to remember. So, there's all those responses. If they say, what is that? Then I use the car analogy. If they say, oh man, I meant to do it, but I forget, then I'll use the, hey, you don't have to forget because we're going to contact you. Right. So having those things
Right.
prepared and just being in mind,
Yeah.
you're not, dang, your thing is dirty, man. What are you doing? Yeah.
That's not gonna work. That's not gonna work. And yeah, being tactful with your delivery and just and that's what word track is, right? It's saying I think word track in sales can be summarized like this. It's delivering a hard message nicely.
Hmm.
So if you have someone that hasn't got their HVAC system, you know, maintenance in a very long time, a good question, right, to ease into that is, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, have you been noticing trouble breathing? Have you smelled anything weird in the house? And the customer's like, oh no, not at all. And then you may show them something on their, I don't know, maybe something tangled up in their blower or whatever, and say like, hey, like this is what I found. That's the reason I asked that. When was the last time you got a maintenance? And it's
Yeah.
almost tonality plays a role in that because it's not, man, when was the last time you got this maintenance? But more so,
Right.
hey, when was the last time you
Yeah.
got this maintenance? If you're experiencing some trouble breathing or, air may seem kind of tight in the house. So word track and tonality in that is going to be key. But again, what that does, that leads you to an easier path of least path of resistance when it comes to closing the maintenance plan deal or even closing the sale. Maybe they need a whole new unit. It just
Yeah.
makes it easier because you're leading the deer to water and not in a way of being um, condescending, not in a way of just being facetious, but you're just trying to show them their need for your solution, and your solution is going to be a maintenance plan so this doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
Longevity, right? So, yeah, that's right on. That's spot on, man.
I want to ask you a question. So I ran into a situation the other day where we went on an estimate, right? Because we talked about in the video we did recently about follow-ups. We just kind of touched on it, right?
Right,
But in this situation, a technician goes out, unit's all busted up, broken. The technician says, hey, I recommend because of the repair's going to be so high, I recommend replacing it. It comes with this warranty, boom, boom, boom. The guy says, oh yeah, man, let's do it, right? So salesman comes in, calls him,
Right.
walks through everything, gives him the price. The guy's real nice, down to earth, the customer, and he says, oh, you know what? I'm just flipping this house. I didn't think it was gonna be that much, so man, I'm just gonna flip it. I'm not gonna replace it. So he's
Yeah.
pretty clear. He's clear on his intentions.
Right.
Do you follow up with him, or do you pretty much say, okay, I understand?
Well, I'm doing two things, right? So with my tech, I'm backing him up, right? Because from jump, he should have built some type of rapport with the customer and utilize questioning as a core selling skill to know, hey, this is just going to be a a rental property, is an investment property, it's not his forever home. And this is something I always talk about. That's like, man, that's like a perfect example. So I'm backing him up and doing some training with him to make sure on the next sales call that he actually follows the sales process of building rapport and questioning. Also, I'm making sure that my tech, or maybe the techs don't go over the menu, but I would have that customer sat down at the table going over the menu, and me knowing what I know after building rapport with them, after questioning, I would know that, hey, like, this is going to be investment property. So maybe I'm not offering the most expensive unit because for him, he just needs something that's going to run and not crank out on him every, 6 months
Yeah.
after repair. So I would do that. But yes, to follow up, always to follow up. And the reason I say
Even
that,
yeah, even though he's like, and you know what, I'm not gonna fix it, I'm not gonna replace it. I'm just gonna flip this house. I bought it, I'm not gonna do.
yeah, because here's this, right? What do you have to lose? Calling
Yeah.
him and saying this perfect word track. Hey, Mr. Customer, I know that you said this is just an investment property. I'm sorry that we didn't offer all of our options. And I would do this as an owner. I say, I'm sorry we didn't offer all our options, but this is what I want to go over with you. Send him the menu through email or even better in person. See if you can meet up with them and go through the different options and say, hey, this is what I recommend for you. Because the last thing you want are your tenants freezing or sweating because it's so hot in the summertime. You need something that's going to be reliable, not going to break down. And trust me, you don't want those problems. I've been a landlord before, and this is what you're going to want to do: replace your unit. I mean,
Yeah.
it's worth the swing the bat, because it's
Yeah.
definitely worth the try. And I
Yeah.
would I was I would position it just like that
Okay. So you're following up, but yeah, either way. I
all
guess if
day.
you look at it as a what do you have to lose, it makes sense because even if he sells the home, because he's saying he's gonna sell it, he's not gonna rent, he's gonna sell it.
Sell it,
It
yeah.
doesn't
If
hurt
you
to
sell it,
call him, a week later and say, hey, are you still planning on selling it? I mean, what's the worst he's gonna say? Well, yes.
for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So even if he, sorry, I misunderstood that. So even if he does sell it and he wants to sell it, there may be an inspector that comes out and maybe he notices something. I know inspectors don't dive into the HVAC system, but maybe something that he notices that leads him to tell the homeowner, and homeowner he's wanting to call a HVAC company out again to see what's wrong with it.
Yeah.
And instead of calling you, he calls someone else and he winds up getting a new one because he knows he needs to get it fixed to sell the home.
Yeah. 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 That's
And I,
really
and I
good.
may I may be reaching in that predicament, but it could happen. But at the end of the day, is you got to ask yourself, why wouldn't you follow up?
I'll tell you something funny is, and this is a little off the topic of home service, but it's sales is sales.
Sales and
So
sales, yeah,
I went to buy one of those basketball machines that, you shoot, it throws the ball at you. I was
right,
actually sold on this company. I forget the name of the company. They call it the Gun or whatever. It's been the one that schools have used forever. That's
yeah,
the one
yep,
I wanted. That's the one I wanted. Well, I was pricing that one. I looked at some other company. I think I put my email in. Dude, they called me once every 2 weeks. I didn't even, I was not buying one from this company,
right,
but they called me every 2 weeks. They walked me through the options. I started getting familiar with their options. Well, when I finally got the money together to buy, You know, it was so much easier to call the lady back because I kind of had her number.
Right,
And say, hey, can you just because you know, I was tired of looking and researching and Googling, and I had the lady's number. So
right.
I just called and say, hey, what do you have that's similar to the gun? And she was like, we have this one, it's exactly the same. She walked me through. I said, hey, take my card. So that was a funny situation where I was sold on another company. And they actually never contacted me. They never emailed me. They never followed up. The company that I didn't care about them. But
Right.
because they followed up, it just made it easy for me to say, you know what, I want the machine. It's taking forever. Ma'am, send me. And that's the one that I have.
Yep,
You know,
that's funny. That's funny. It's sometimes it's about staying relevant. Like how relevant can you stay to that customer? Because you know, if you're not following up, even though the customer said, "Hey, I'm just going to sell it," still follow up because again, he might get a home inspection and realizes that he needs a new unit for sure to sell this home.
yeah,
So who knows? So you got to stay relevant, and that's where that follow up and the call cadence definitely
yeah,
comes into play. And then I think this right with sales and just like a lot of things in life is process. Like how consistent are you sticking to your process? Are you deviating from that? If you
mhm,
don't deviate from the process and you stick to it every single time, numbers are going to play out themselves just
yeah,
by sticking to your sales process.
yeah, yeah. I like that. I really like that a
Yeah.
lot. It's funny too, because if you talk about follow-ups, I'm curious how often it would be if you're following up with the person. You know, if you go into your nurture process where you say, immediately I'm calling every day, and then after 7 or 10 days, I'm putting them into like a 30-day nurture where I'm just kind of calling them every 2 weeks or every 30 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm curious how much, even if that person goes cold, if someone else in their life goes to him and says, my AC is out, blah, 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 they could say, oh, hey, this guy, man, he works for this company, you know, here, call him. I'm curious because you become kind of like a point of contact.
Yeah, and it's that's a good point because it's something you really can't quantify.
Yeah.
However, I know that I know that I know that some sales happen just like that. I've been in sales too long not to say that it doesn't. Some sales
Yeah.
happen like that. So yeah, that's a whole testament of being relevant and providing like the best service through your
Yeah.
sales because it's consultative. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah. I had one that closed like that. It was actually pretty big job. It was about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago.
nice.
Uh, yeah, another tradesman called and said, "Hey, this person referred this work to me. It was HVAC work, and he doesn't do that kind of work." And he said, "Call this company or call this guy. Call this guy." You know, I told him you'd call. First of all, I didn't want to call because we don't want to follow up. Typically, we're tradesmen, right? And
Right.
we get nervous. So I called the guy. He said, so right now at the time of this recording is January, right?
Yep.
He said, oh, I'm not going to do anything until well, if I say the time's too much, the person's going to know, right? But it was months down. And I
Right.
said, oh, okay, no problem. Well, you have my estimate. You know, I'll follow up with you because this is what I do. You know, it's my job. I made a little
Yeah.
joke. Oh, hey, you know, we follow up. I'll call you in a week or so just to see. So I called him in a week, and he said, oh, I'm still months out, man. I'm not going to do this until it's like 5 months down the line. I
Right.
said, hey, no problem. I'll just check with you because sometimes, you know, you may have questions. I'll just check. No big deal. And so I called him again a week later. So this is a long follow-up process. Maybe I need to be shorter. I don't know. But I called him the second time and he said, you know what, let's do it.
Boom.
So he pushed me off, and it reminds me of something you told me a while ago. Most of the time when people say a date, they normally
Yep.
do the work a lot sooner.
For sure. For sure. 100%. And then also too, that's a great place to.
It's saying take shelter.
Are we supposed to be are we supposed to be taking
Yeah, I saw that. Hey Shanae. Um,
Hey.
yeah,
we
I saw that earlier. It was 34 minutes ago on my end.
we can take shelter. We got
It just took, it just,
we got
Yeah.
We got a lot of reels from that, actually. It's funny because the AI
Good.
will probably pull 10 reels from this.
That's good. That's good. But where do we just what was that? I'm gonna just yeah. That was a good. I wanted to answer that thought, so I'll finish that later in our next Zoom. But that was good.
Okay, yeah, it was good. It was
That
good.
was
But
good.
anyway, bring the tornadoes. We gotta be a
Yeah.
model for the kids.
No, I got you. I got you.
All
Cool,
right,
bro. All right,
all right.
later.